Hello and welcome back to the Marvels of Water. Today we're going to be looking at heating compress. This is the third of our series of hydrotherapy remedies, the Marvels of Water heating compress. As we continue, we're going to look at some of the indications for the uses of a heating compress. Well, we can apply heating compresses in different places on the body. So if someone has a sore throat, or laryngitis, tonsillitis, coughs, bronchitis, headaches. This is a short list here of indications for a heating compress. Also, if someone, say, has pelvic congestion, or if someone has joint pain, you can also use a heating compress. Now, a heating compress is comprised primarily of 3 layers. Some people use 2 layers, but personally, I like to use 3 layers. That's the way I was trained, and so I found that 3 layers are very effective. Now, as I said, sore throat, laryngitis, those types of things, I'm going to ask my friend, Mr. Joel, if he would come over again, and we are going to keep going as we look at what a heating compress can be used for. Let's say Mr. Joel has what?
I have a sore throat.
You have a sore throat?
I gotta sing tomorrow.
Oh, you got to sing tomorrow. Well, hopefully this heating compress will be able to make him well so he can be able to sing tomorrow, all right? So he has a sore throat. So as I mentioned, 3 layers that we're looking at. That's our equipment here. 3 layers, and it's primarily a thinner cotton piece of layer. Then we have a plastic layer. And then we have a thicker fleece, felt, or a wool layer. Some people don't care for the wool because it can sort of itch the skin, but some people it doesn't bother. So those 3 layers. Now what we want to do is first, we want to take our first layer, the thinner cottony type of layer. This is a piece of an old sheet. There again, you can use your old sheets and old towels and utilize them for your hydrotherapy, for your simple remedies equipment, if we can call it equipment. So you want to take this thin layer, and I'm going to take this from Mr. Joel's throat. What I want to do first is I'm going to dip this in ice cold water. I have my ice cold water basin right here. Dip that in there now, and you're going to wring it out. Now, sometimes what I do, instead of dipping it in ice cold water, what I would do is put it under the sink. I will get it nice and wet, wring it out, and then I will place this in the freezer for 20, 30 minutes or so or longer. Get it nice and cold. But either way, whether it's in the ice cold water or in the freezer, you want to get this first part nice and cold. Now, I forgot to mention that one of the contraindications for doing the heating compress is if the person is already cold. If the person's already cold, you don't want to place cold on them because the body will not respond the way that you want it to. Physiologically, it won't happen. The nervous system will not respond. So anyway, you get this nice and cold out of the water or out of the freezer, and you want to apply that right away. And I'm just going to tuck down his collar here. All right. So you want to apply that. And then you want to follow up right away with the plastic layer. Let them know before you put it on that the cold is coming. You've already told that to them, so they already know what's coming. Alrighty. And then you follow that up with the thicker layer. And then you can have a couple of safety pins to secure this. You want to make sure that you're not choking the person, but you want to make sure that the layer is flush against the skin so that the cold is in good contact with the skin. Now notice that this is called a heating compress, not a cold compress or a hot compress. It's called a heating compress. Why is that? Well, you remember from our intro video, we talked about what happens when hot and cold is applied to the skin. Well, we remember that when hot is applied to the skin, that the blood vessels will widen. We call that vasodilation. But in this case, when cold is applied to the skin, that the blood vessels will narrow. That's called vasoconstriction. So when I applied this cold application to Joel's neck, his blood vessels, his pores on his skin constricted, they closed, and the blood went into the interior. But after a few minutes, then the blood will come back to that surface area, to the area where the application is made, and it will then seek to warm up that area. So blood comes back to that area. Now think about it. We talked about what circulation does. First, the blood went to the interior. After a few minutes, the blood comes back to that area, and the blood continues to come to that area. It then will warm up this area, and it will heat up this area, hence the name heating compress. It's not a hot compress because we didn't start with hot externally, but it's a heating compress because his body is heating up the compress, causing that circulation, speeding white blood cell activity to that area, or whatever affected area that we're looking at, bringing healing. All right, so today we were looking at that Joel said that he had a sore throat. Well, suppose he said that he had a headache, and we were working with a diabetic. We talked about that in the hot foot bath video, that if someone were having diabetes and they had lost sensation in their lower extremities, well, we wouldn't want to use a hot foot bath in that case. Well, we could use a heating compress on the person's feet because we're not heating with an external source. Their own body is heating the compress. So what we can have here then is the same three layers. We would have a pair of socks, a thinner pair of socks, and then we have plastic layer. These are just shopping bags here that we have. And then we have a thicker pair of socks. And so what would happen is that we would simply, I won't place these on Joel, but the same thing, we would put these socks in the ice cold water, all right? Place these in the ice cold water, and then there again, every cold treatment, we want to make sure that the person is not cold. Then I would put these on each foot, all right? And then we would place the plastic bag on top of that. And then we would finish up by placing the thicker layer of socks on top of that. Okay, so having put these different layers in place, whether it's the throat compress for the throat for laryngitis or a sore throat or something like that, or if it's for the feet for something like a headache or some other type of congestion, how long will we leave these on? Well, anywhere from 5 hours or longer. You could put this on and then go to bed with this on and keep it on overnight, whether it's overnight or 5, 6, 7, 8 hours or so during the day, and your body will heat this up. Let's say that Joel has some chest congestion. Well, you remember from previous videos, we showed that the hot foot bath could handle that. Also, we did one where we talked about in the video on fomentations, where we did fomentations. We also combined that with a hot foot bath. But another option that might be for chest congestion, also coughs, it works very well for that, is doing a heating compress over the trunk, over the thoracic area. And so the same three layers. I only have two with me here today, but we have our thinner cottony layer, we have our plastic layer, and then you would place something like a nice thick sweater or a thick jacket over that, and for the same time, keep it on maybe 5 hours, or you could put it on and go overnight. Same thing, you would wet it, you put that on, and then this is just a kitchen plastic bag that you can cut something out for the head here, and then for the arms, and then after putting the wet, cold shirt on, then you would simply put that on. That's right, very good. And then you would put a sweater or sweat jacket or something, very nice thick layer on top of that. Keep that on for, like I said, 5 hours or longer. You could even go to bed. And then after that amount of time, remember that's causing circulation, white blood cell activity is coming to the area that is being worked on by the compress. After that time ends, then because that area has been heated up, what you want to do then is take this off, and I'll show you here. All right, so we're going to remove the compress. Let's say it's been at least 5 hours he's had this on, and we want to get Mr. Joel ready because he says he has to sing tomorrow. And so after it's been warmed up, so what you want to do is then with the cold mitten friction, and then you want to friction that area down with cold water. You said, wait a minute, you started with cold, but now you're going to end with cold? Well, it's okay, because remember that the body has heated this area up. It's warm now, so then you can friction it. That is, if it's that, or if it's the chest, do the same friction with that, or if it's the feet, then you can finish with cold for the feet. All right, and then you can make sure you dry that off, dry that area off, and then, well, how many times can you do it? You can do it twice a day if you want. Or if you're working with something like cold flu, something like that, you might have to do it once a day or twice a day for 2 or 3 days. And you do these and simply see what type of effect that you're having. And you might have to try it more or less, watch the person, see how they're doing. And we have to be persistent sometimes in these. And that's the heating compress. Remember to practice it, receive it, and let's become proficient. Thank you.